Okay, welcome to another shop update. I'm kind of showing you the gooseneck part of the trailer because I just want you to see it, because most of this video is going to be about this. Again, welcome to another shop update. This thing is going to be a little bit long and there's going to be a lot of talking in here. We're going to start out by showing you the International and me completing the stacks on it. But then we're going to go into basically trailer mode. There is going to be a small segment about the haul truck and the build and what's going to be happening with that. But basically a lot of it is going to be about the trailer. So I'm going to go into a discussion where I tell you what I kind of think the failure point of this hitch post was on the original one that came with the trailer. One of the things that I didn't talk about is this was bent out a little bit from that hitch post bending, and we'll get in maybe to that, not this time but another time. But the thing is solid. Diamond C's concern was about these bolts being tight, and they were tight. The thing was solid. I think this flaring happened after it broke up in there and allowed it to bend back and forth. Again, let's not get into that. Let's just get into other things. So most of it is going to be about the trailer and some of the problems, some of the things that I think could be done to help eliminate this problem. But let me get into it, and we'll discuss it further in detail as the video goes on. I'm over here to the local haul truck, and as you can see, there's a lot of tools, ladders and stuff out. What I just did is put the two brackets on the top. I had put the pipes on before and just had the bracket on each side on the bottom. But what I did is got the bracket on the top. Now, why I didn't put them on there before is, as you can see, the panel on the back of the thing has raised sections in it. They do that to strengthen it, to stop it from oil canning, like when you're driving, gives it more strength. What happens is the layout of the brackets overlap some of the, I positioned them on a high spot, but they overlap that recess in the panel also. On the bottom bracket, I only put 3 bolts on. I didn't put it on the bolt on the top. There's no need to. 3 bolts will be more than adequate. But on the top, to get a bracket up there, I really needed to overlap and drill into one of those recesses. And it happened to be a recess where the welded seam is, the spot welded seam is of the cab panels. So I wanted to get something that would take care of that. And what I did is, if you can see behind there, I got a piece of 3/8 inch thick by 1 inch wide stainless steel bar stock. I got it 1 foot long, and what I did is put it in there, cut it to length, the same height as the bracket is, cut it to that height, and then drilled 2 holes in it, and then bolted that in between the stack bracket that goes onto the cab and to the recessed panel, so that it sits flush. And that is 3/8. It is 3/8 of an inch deep, and I got 3/8 material, and you can see it a little better on that one. But anyways, there they are. They're all bolted up and it's solid. If I wiggle it, the truck wiggles. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I had left the door open. I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but I did leave the door open. Now the light shuts off after a while on the inside with the door open, but there is some place where I have a drain on these batteries. Either that or the batteries are bad. You know, I mean, if I go out and start it like every other day or maybe once every 3 days, it's fine. But if I let it sit for a while, it won't start. It cranks, then, you know, it cranks for a little while, but not enough for it to catch, and then it's done. But anyways, I'm going to take all of this stuff out, take the truck back out of the shop. My next task is to start onto the bed of the truck. But I'm going to take it out for now because I want to bring my trailer in. Now, it's really hard to get the trailer in here, and I can't get it in all of the way. But I want to bring it in and look at a possibility. But regarding that bouncing issue, but I'll bring you back and explain that to you in another clip. Let's talk about my trailer for a little bit. As most of you that follow my YouTube channel know, that I've got a deck over trailer, a gooseneck type deck over trailer. It's got approximately a 40-foot bed on it, but you know that I've had some issues with it. I've posted a video about a bouncing issue that I have with the trailer, mainly going over concrete roads where it creates a harmonic effect because of the, well, I've been told it's because of the expansion joints. I have a friend. Let's go over the concrete thing a bit. Kind of my thought with the concrete roads is I noticed that it didn't used to happen with older concrete roads. You went back in the 50s, 60s, 70s when they built concrete roads for the interstate system. You never really noticed that bouncy, that harmonic bouncy effect. And so me thinking about it, driving over a lot of concrete roads, newer concrete roads, and having that issue happen, I started thinking about it. Now, I have a friend that tests concrete and stuff like that, and he's told me that they have done studies on it, and they think it's their opinion that the bouncing, the what is causing the bouncing is where they saw cut the concrete. And they do it like I'm not sure how often it is. It's like every 10 feet or something. They saw cut it to a certain depth, but what happens with that saw cut is it allows, and this is, again, their perspective on it, it allows the concrete to dry out where the saw cut has been made quicker than the rest of the concrete that isn't exposed or hasn't been saw cut, and it allows it to dry out quicker, and it creates a upheaval in the concrete at that spot, creating the bump. Now, if anybody's really familiar with it, we have a lot of it here in New York State that has been done on the thruway. I live near Buffalo, and there's a section of the thruway, or Route 90, between the 190 and the 400 in West Seneca, where the rippling got so bad that they had to come in and grind the road down. They ground it down, and they did a very good job of it, but you can still feel it with the trailer. I mean, it's nothing like it is in other areas of the country, but you can still feel it. My original thought was that before I even heard that theory of the saw cuts, was the only thing different between the concrete that I know of, and again, I'm no concrete guy, but the only difference between the concrete of today and what they used to do is the way that they lay the concrete down. They have that machine that has an auger and that distributes the concrete across the pour. The truck backs up to this machine, pours it into the machine. The machine has an auger, and it distributes the concrete across the pour. My thought was that, it seems like it's always the new sections that really have this issue with the bouncing or the upheaval. And I kind of thought maybe it had something to do with that machine, or more specifically that auger, that the auger was creating as the auger spun and distributed the concrete, it would create waves like in the concrete, or I really don't know how to describe what I'm thinking. It's more like compacted and non-compacted spots depending on how the auger blade crossed over that section of concrete. So that's what I kind of thought it was, and as the concrete dried out and cured, those waves caused by the auger became more. But regardless of the point, that's just my perspective of it, and probably there's a lot of other people out there that know more about it than I do. But so I had the issue with the bouncing trailer, and then over there is a spring. I had a spring break probably a couple of months ago, but I'm not going to say. I'm going to say when this first got replaced, and I wasn't able to replace it myself. I actually had a roadside assistance people come out and replace it. I'm just going to throw this little clip in here, and it's going to be brief, and it's about this and about that spring. I appreciate that Diamond C contacted me about this issue, but I am kind of puzzled as to why they didn't want these parts back to test them, to see what failed on them. Was it caused by the bouncing effect? Was it caused by bad steel? What was the issue? I mean, you would think, when you think of a hitch on a trailer, you don't think of the original manufacturer, in this case Bulldog. You don't think of the spring as being manufactured by Dexter. No, I know these things. I know these things because I had to go out and get one of these to replace it, and I know who manufactured it. I saw the label on it, so I needed to get the same thing. Same way with the Dexter axle. I knew there were Dexter axles under it because I knew of Dexter axles in relationship to these trailers. But most people wouldn't think about that. They would think about Diamond C, and these things kind of represent the trailer manufacturer more than they represent the manufacturer that actually made them things. People would think of Diamond C before they would think of Bulldog. Think of Diamond C before they would think of Dexter axles. Why didn't they want them back to test them? I'm just kind of baffled about it. It kind of has been turned back over to the dealer to try and figure out what the issue was with the bouncing. And I mentioned that to him also, and he said that he was going to talk to them. But I just thought I would throw that in there. If I owned a company like that and parts failed on it, man, I'd want them parts back just so that I could figure out what the hell was going on. Is it the supplier of these parts that it has the issue, or is it something with my product that has the issue? But maybe that's old school thought. This is where they bent the leaf for the knuckle, and it's very hard to see it right now, but do you see down there along that, it almost, when this first happened and I first saw this piece before it got rusty, it almost looked like there was a stress crack in the metal where this thing had been rolled and formed, and that's where it broke. Now, I'm not sure of that, the same way I'm not sure of what happened to this. In my opinion, and again, I'm not an engineer and I'm not a metallurgist, but in my opinion, this thing probably was weakened and caused by the bouncing effect of that trailer. And I know this is going to be a long video about this, but I really want to get some points out there, and a lot of people have made comments on this, and let me tell you this. I posted the video, and it was like a week ago, about this issue as part of a shop update, and Monday morning Diamond C actually called me and had saw the video. So I talked to Diamond C, and their thought, I think one of their thoughts, he didn't really specify that it was their thought. He questioned whether the set screw bolts were tight, and they were. They were very tight. When I took it off, they were very tight. I'm not sure if I probably told you the story about when I took it off. I had a hard time getting it out of there, and actually had to hammer on this thing to get it loose to come out. And I had left the trailer plugged in because it was still dark out, and I wanted the four-way flashers on because the trailer was the leading edge or of the traffic coming at me, and I wanted to keep the flashers on the trailer as long as possible. So I backed the trailer out the truck out from underneath the tongue of the trailer, the gooseneck of the trailer, so that I could get this part out, that it would clear the truck, the tailgate, etc. But the trailer was still plugged in, and again, the cord was running underneath this thing. And when I hammered on it the last time before it dropped out, went down and severed the cord. So not only did I have to find a place that had another one of these things so that I could do a roadside repair on this trailer to get the load back, trailer and the load back, I also had to repair the cable that went to the trailer. But anyways, I regress. The original thing that I was going to tell you about is there was something going on with this months and weeks or months prior to this happening, and maybe it was and maybe it wasn't, but let me tell you what happened. I wash my trailer a lot, and a lot in respect to what probably other people do, but I'll probably wash it a couple of times a month. But anyways, what I started noticing was, you see this kind of rust colored down there? Well, it didn't show up for probably the first 10 months that I owned the trailer, and then all of a sudden it started showing up down around this hitch. There would be streaks of it coming down, and it would wash right off. It was really funny. It wasn't like a normal rust stain. It was kind of all over the place, running down this thing from up in where the hitch posts attach up into the receiving tube. And I couldn't figure it out what it was coming from, and then I just thought, well, they probably didn't paint or powder coat, which they didn't do, that area above where it was put in. And so my point of this whole thing is I don't know whether that had something to do with a predecessor to this happening, that I should have paid more attention to that, maybe pulled this tube out to see if something was going on. Had the metal started cracking before that? I don't know whether it had anything to do with it or not do with it, but one of the things I told you in a clip that I just had shown you about putting the stacks on, that I was going to show you the trailer or bring the trailer in here. I haven't gotten around to doing that yet, but one of the things that a bunch of people have mentioned to me is that some of this bouncing effect over concrete highways has happened to semis also. And one of their solutions to dampening that problem is putting shocks on the axles. Now, I kind of had thought in the back of my mind that maybe this didn't happen to semis because they had air suspension, but apparently in talking to some people, drivers and mechanics that work on semis or trailers, they're saying it did happen to it. Probably not as bad as sprung axles, but it happened to it. And one of their solutions to dampening that problem was to put shocks onto the axles, because what happens with leaf springs is you don't get a cushioning effect. You get it's rapid. If it bounces, it comes back right away, and what happens is that shock would dampen that return effect of the axle springs. So I'm kind of thinking about that. And again, I'm not looking to Diamond C to fix my trailer or rectify my trailer, because it apparently happens to a lot. I'm looking to resolve an issue that let's call it the industry might have with this, and try and find out a way of doing this. Now, here's another thought of mine. I have talked about putting a shocker hitch onto in place of this. What a shocker hitch is the same thing, except it has an airbag suspension in it, and it absorbs that bounce or whatever you're getting, and it absorbs it going back to the truck. My point with not putting the shocker hitch on, or I might even still do that, but my point is, if there's an issue, the shocker hitch would dampen or stop the effect of it being transferred back to the truck, but the trailer is still taking that beating that it's getting from the bouncing. And what I want to do is try and save my trailer too, as well as my truck, because these shock waves that come back through from that bouncing is got to have a detrimental effect onto the truck also. Mainly the trailer, but also being transferred back to the truck. You know, whether it be wearing out the shocks and springs faster, putting stress cracks into something, I'm not sure, but something has got to be done, and I'm probably going to bring the trailer in here and take a look at possibly putting some shocks on to see if that helps the problem. Okay, as part of the shop update, let me just talk about the haul truck just briefly, because there's probably people out there wondering what the hell's going on with it or whatever. The haul truck isn't dead, far from being dead. It's just kind of put on hold until I resolve some of these other issues. I want to get that international up and running, plated, registered and on the road. So that's my main priority now. The second priority is trying to figure out what's going on with the trailer and getting those issues taken care of also. And at the same time, there's a bunch of personal things that I've kind of discussed with my wife that kind of occupy some time. So the haul truck is not dead. It's a viable, still gonna be built thing. Now there are a couple of things that this time of not working on it may lend to help resolving some issues. The steering, it's manual steering. Was no power steering on the truck. It's manual steering. I don't think, knowing some of the places that I have to get into and how tight they can be, backing that trailer into like dock areas in some places, or backing the trailer into driveways or things like that, do require you have power steering. Now, can it be done with a manual steering? Of course it can. It's just going to take much longer and be much more frustrating. So there's issues like that this pause in continuing to build this truck may help me think out, give thought to, and be able to come up with some other options on it. The other thing, let me tell you, you know that I've got an 8.3 Cummins. You know that I got that 10-speed transmission. And it is the overdrive transmission. So the final drive, the 10th gear in it is 0.73 to 1. Not a 1-to-1 transmission ratio, but a 0.73 to 1. So I'm not really sure if I'm gonna like the transmission that's in that International, which is an 8 low, so if it gets to the point where I can't deal with that transmission in the International, I have an option here of getting this transmission out of here and putting it into that truck. So again, this thing is not dead, far from being dead. It's just on hold for a while I take care of some other things. And again, that being the International, that being the trailer, and doing all of this in between hauls. So I just wanted to include that as part of the shop update. Okay, I'm out here at the trailer, and I think I had just told you about this in the another shop update when I was talking about the trailer. I had installed this bolt in here. Originally, that's a 5/16 bolt. Originally there was a 1/4 inch bolt in there, and what it did is attach to this latch thing. I'm sorry, it goes like this, if you can see it. So that comes down, that attaches to this like that and hooks it. I had thought this bolt had broke, but the bolt didn't break. What happened is this latch pin came off of here. It pulled it out from the metal, and I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see that or not, but it pulled the metal right out. You probably get a better view of it this way. So what I've got to do is I've got to see if I can get another one of these. Yeah. What I've been doing is I've just got bungee cords holding it shut. Bungee cords are attached. One of the things that I noticed is two things that I noticed. They didn't put a rivet in this one hole, and this rivet that they put in, they never crimped it. If they had crimped it, it would have been cut off of there. I mean, I can't pull it out, so it's probably wallered in there a little bit, but well, that's unusual. They've got a washer behind it. Why did, oh, I know why they put a washer behind it, is because it's not a through hole through the diamond plate. They actually got that hole kind of into the cutout for this thing. So they put a washer behind it to keep it from pulling out. Maybe they did crimp it a little bit, but it didn't crimp far enough to cut the thing off. I'm gonna have to get a hold of my dealer and see if he can get me a new latch assembly. Anyways, I was under the trailer. Let me tell you what I'm going to go through. I told you in a previous clip that I was thinking about trying to put shocks on this thing, and I know what I'm going to go through right now without even why is this camera? Okay, sorry. The gimbal wasn't in the right mode. What I'm going to go through is trying to find, I'm going to go to like a Napa, but I know what's going to happen. What I've got to do is find a shock with a certain length. Travel length, and I know that I'm going to go to like Napa, and they're probably not going to be able to tell me that. they're probably, Napa's going to be the best of them, but if I went to like Advanced or AutoZone or some place like that, if I don't have the year, make, and model, they don't know anything. So here I am I'm going to try and fit shocks onto this thing. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try and fit shocks on it. But one of the things I got to do is get under there, kind of get an idea of how long the shock has got to be, and then try and find a shock that I can adapt to something. But the travel length is going to be an important issue in it. And I know that I'm probably not going to be able to get that information. Again, year, make, and model. Or with the International, what's the VIN number? Okay, I'm over here to the haul truck again, and I just finished that clip about the latch on the trailer and then the shocks and being able to find them. And I might have resolved my own issue here. I got these shocks for the back of the truck, and what I can do is figure out, I've got two of them, two brand new ones, but I have the old one off of there, and it's actually no good. You can pull it out, but this way I can find what the travel length is on this thing, and just take them two that I got for this, get two more of them, and try and mount them on the trailer. I need something. I need to build something kind of like that for the bottom. I need to build something for an adapter on the top, and then I've got to find two bolts that are similar to that, that I can use to mount them with. But again, I might have just solved my own problem as far as finding the travel length on a given shock, and I'll just use this, which would work out good, because not only would I have the shock number for this on file, I would have the shock number for the trailer on file also. Yeah, let me just briefly take you under there. I know this is going to turn out to be a long video. Let me just briefly take you under there and show you what I've got to work with. Okay, so we're under the trailer now, and there should be enough residual light in here that you're going to be able to see. So somehow I've got to mount it. Probably use those. I don't know whether I could be able to use those two bolts, U-bolts. Make a shackle that would be wide enough, because do you see how that thing has a bend in there? So I would have to fit something in between there and be big enough for the bolt. Yeah, I'm not sure that would work. And they're not long enough to get something onto the bottom of this. I was thinking about leaving them nuts on there, putting a plate across two of them, bolting that plate up, but there probably wouldn't be enough threads left to get good nut engagement on there to make a shackle. And then I've got to bring it up and do something up there. Let me fix this gimbal again. Yeah, do something. Yeah, so anyways, that's what I got to work with, and let me see what I can do. There's that torque tube that I'm always talking about, that round pipe that goes down through the center of it, which provides stiffness to the trailer. I thought that's kind of what the culprit was to begin with, originally, with that bumping issue, but people are now saying that it's probably more of a suspension issue than that. But anyways,
okay, enough is enough with this shop update. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Especially leave a comment if you have any thoughts, ideas, input into any of these issues. Just make sure you leave a comment. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Thanks for watching.